On February 7th, 2021, at exactly 2:37 a.m., a woman named Clara Menendez, a resident of a quiet town in northern Spain, was awakened by the shrill ring of her home telephone. At first, she thought it was a wrong number. Nobody used landlines anymore, let alone at that hour. But the phone kept ringing, slow and deliberate, echoing through her dark living room. There was something off about the sound, metallic, almost mechanical, like it was coming from a very old machine. Half asleep, Clara walked down the hallway and picked up the receiver. A woman's voice came through, soft, trembling, desperate. "Clara, I don't have much time." Clara froze. She recognized that voice immediately. It wasn't just familiar, it was identical. It sounded exactly like her own voice. At first, she thought it was some sort of cruel prank, maybe someone using a voice filter. But then the caller began mentioning things no one else could possibly know. The name of her childhood dog, the story of her mother's missing silver necklace, even the nightmares Clara used to have when she was 13, the dream about a long white hallway and a door whispering her name from the other side. Then the voice said something that made her blood run cold. "Clara, it's me, but I'm calling from 1994. Clara's grip on the receiver tightened. 1994. That was 27 years ago. She was 13 then. It was the year her family had moved into this house. The same old property that once belonged to a doctor who had died under strange circumstances. "Listen to me carefully," the voice continued, hurried, frightened. "Tonight, don't open the back door. No matter what happens, don't open it." Before Clara could respond, static crackled through the line. She heard what sounded like crying. Then silence. The line went dead. Clara stood there, frozen, her hand trembling against the cold receiver. The phone buzzed softly in her palm, humming with a sound that didn't quite belong to this time. The next morning, Clara tried to tell herself it was just a dream, a strange fragment of a sleepless night. But something about that voice haunted her. She checked the telephone, an old beige rotary model, still connected to copper wiring. Records showed that the line had been active since 1989, years before her family moved in. Digging through boxes in her attic, Clara found her old notebooks and diaries from the 1990s. Between dusty cassette tapes and photo albums, she discovered a small journal with her name written in blue ink. On the last page, she read something that made her knees go weak. "Last night, I heard a voice on the phone. It sounded like me, but older. She told me not to open the back door." That night, Clara sat on her couch, staring at the back door. It was locked with a heavy iron bolt, the kind her father had installed years ago. Outside, the old orange tree swayed in the wind, its branches brushing against the windows. At 2 a.m., she heard it. 3 soft knocks. A pause, then one more. Her breath caught in her throat. Slowly, she approached the curtain and peeked through. There was nothing, only the faint outline of a shadow standing motionless beyond the door. Then a voice, warm, familiar, the voice of her late mother, "Clara, sweetheart, it's me. Please open the door." Clara's heart stopped. Her mother had been dead for 6 years. She stepped back, shaking her head. The phone rang again, the same slow mechanical ring from the night before. She picked it up, terrified. The same voice, her own, came through the line. "Don't open it, Clara. That's not her." Clara screamed and dropped the receiver. The voice outside turned into a sob, then faded into the sound of rustling wind.
The following morning, Clara went to the local police station and reported what had happened. 2 officers were sent to inspect the property. They found nothing. No footprints, no signs of intrusion. But one of them, an older officer named Sergio, stared at the house for a long time before speaking quietly. "You know, there was a report like this once before, back in '94. Same house, same kind of call." He told her that the house had belonged to Dr. Emilio Vargas, a local physician. After his death, the house sat empty for years. According to old rumors, one of the doctor's daughters vanished after receiving a mysterious phone call the same night a lightning storm struck a nearby telephone pole. The case was never solved. People around the neighborhood avoided the property after that, until Clara's family bought it in 1994. Over the next few weeks, Clara noticed something strange. Even when no one was calling, she could hear a faint, rhythmic static from the telephone, like someone whispering behind a wall. She called a technician from the local telecom company, a man named Luis, to check the wiring. After a few minutes, he frowned. "This line is still active, but it's not connected to the main grid. It's running through an older analog system, one that's been shut down for nearly 20 years. Clara blinked. "You mean it shouldn't work at all?" Luis nodded. "Exactly. It's like your line is connected to something that doesn't exist anymore." He offered to disconnect it, but Clara hesitated. Something deep inside told her not to. It felt as if the voice, whoever or whatever it was, still had something left to say. Determined to understand what was happening, Clara set up a voice recorder next to the phone. On March 15, 2021, at 2:41 a.m., the phone rang again. She didn't answer this time. She just pressed record and listened. The voice came again, faint, trembling, distant. "Clara, I just wanted to know, did you survive that night? I heard the knocking too, but I thought it was Mom. I think I made a mistake." Then came a short, sharp scream, followed by the crackle of electricity, like a small explosion in the line. When Clara replayed the recording the next morning, her stomach twisted. The voice wasn't hers anymore. It wasn't the same adult tone she'd heard before. It was the voice of a 13-year-old girl, crying and whispering her name. "Clara, don't let them in." Convinced there was a real connection to the past, Clara went to the city archives. She searched through decades-old records and police files until she found it, a missing person report dated May 17, 1994. Subject: Mariana Vargas, age 13. Last seen leaving home after receiving an unidentified phone call. Believed to have exited through the back door after hearing her mother's voice. Case remains unsolved. Clara's heart sank. Mariana was the doctor's daughter, the one who vanished the night of the storm.
and in the faded black and white photo attached to the report, the resemblance was chilling. Mariana looked exactly like Clara at 13. The same hair, the same eyes, even the same small scar above her eyebrow. Clara's breath caught as she noticed the necklace Mariana wore, a tiny silver cross. It was identical to the pendant Clara had found years ago beneath a loose floorboard in her bedroom. It began to make sense, at least as much sense as horror ever does. The calls weren't coming from another person. They were coming from another time. The storm in 1994, the damaged cables, the death of Dr. Vargas. Something had fractured the connection between past and present. The phone line had become a bridge between two timelines, one where a girl disappeared and one where that echo still lingered. But Clara realized there was something else. Something was using the line too. Something that pretended to be people you loved. She began keeping notes, writing down every detail in her journal in case she didn't survive long enough to explain it herself. April 2nd, 2021. The phone rang again. This time, it didn't stop. For 10 full minutes, it rang continuously, each tone sharper, more urgent. Then the knocks began. 1, 2, 3. Clara froze. Then a soft whisper came from outside. "Clara, open the door. I'm so cold." But this time, the voice wasn't her mother's. It was her own voice. The phone in the living room rang again, but before she could reach it, another voice, identical to hers, came not from the receiver, but from behind the back door. "Clara, I'm here. I don't have much time. Don't let me in. That's not me." The voice outside shifted, deepened, became angry. The light bulbs flickered violently. Static hissed through the telephone line like electricity tearing through air. Clara backed away, covering her ears, running upstairs. The last thing she heard before slamming her bedroom door was the sound of the back door handle turning. Then silence. Only the slow ticking of the clock. 3 days later, police arrived at the house after neighbors reported the lights had been on for days, but no one had seen Clara. They broke down the front door. The house was empty. The telephone hung from its cord, gently swaying, and from the receiver, faint and broken, came a woman's whisper. I heard the knocking too. Don't let them in." Clara Menendez was declared missing. There were no signs of struggle, no signs of escape, nothing. Only a small set of dusty footprints near the back door. They were the size of a 13-year-old girl's feet. Weeks later, a telecom technician was sent to disconnect the old line permanently. When he traced the cables, he found something that made his hands tremble. The line running into Clara's house did not connect to any active circuit. It ended abruptly at a collapsed telephone pole in the woods, a pole that had fallen during a thunderstorm in 1994. At the base of that pole, written faintly in black marker, were the words, "For Clara, if you hear this, don't answer." In 2023, a local journalist named Luis Alvarez began investigating what he called the 1994 phone call case. Through a police contact, he obtained the final recording found in Clara's house. The audio lasted 4 minutes and 22 seconds. In the last minute, a woman's voice, crying softly, could be heard whispering, "I finally saw her, the girl in the white hallway. She's holding the phone, staring at me. But why does she look exactly like me?" After that, only static, a long fading hiss, like the sound of time closing in on itself. No one ever determined who Clara Menendez truly was, or whether the calls really came from the past. But one thing has remained consistent. Every time someone checks the abandoned house, the old beige telephone is always plugged back in. And sometimes, late at night, if you stand close enough to the window, you can still hear a faint, trembling voice through the glass. "Hello? This is Clara. What year is it?"